Hello, everyone. I am Kim Hughes, and this is the January 23rd edition of Sane Crypto Live. I want to say welcome. If you are listening to this after the fact, you're a replay listener, do me a favor. Would you just take a quick second and in the comments below, tell me a little bit about yourself? Specifically, where are you from? And what is your interest in crypto assets? Is it as an investor? Or are you more interested in the technology or both? Now, today's topic came out of a conversation that I had last night. I was talking with a couple of guys and who are not currently invested in crypto assets. And Ron asked me, could the government shut down Bitcoin? And, the immediate answer is, as my grandmother always used to say, nothing is impossible, just highly improbable. But after I thought about it for a little bit, I also realized that probably the more important answer is that it doesn't matter. So let's dig into that just a little bit. I think the question, of course, comes from the fact that right now the price of crypto assets has been declining pretty sharply. We're in a really nice pullback, which is, by the way, I think healthy. And one of the reasons given in the press, the financial press, for this pullback is the specter of regulation. India has taken some action. South Korea has taken some actions. China continues to, etc. And so, given that, especially if you're unfamiliar with crypto assets, then, the question that always comes up is, well, couldn't the government just shut it down? And wouldn't they want to? And they might want to, but the decentralized nature of crypto assets makes it nearly impossible. It would require a global effort in which every country participated. And even then, I'm not sure it could be done. The fact that it is peer-to-peer transactions between you and I, if they, some people have used examples which are a little tricky, but for example, if they can't shut down BitTorrent, for example, they can't shut down Silk Road, they can't shut down the dark web. I don't like using those analogies because those imply that the only use for digital cryptocurrencies is nefarious, and that is absolutely not the case. In fact, we'll get to that here in just a second. But what those sorts of decentralized networks do prove is that it's almost impossible to shut them down. Now, I actually think that, at least in the case of our government, that that's unlikely. Japan, in fact, has fully embraced crypto assets. They've made it legal tender in their country. They are issuing their own coins. They are more than happy to have the business that's being shut down in China moving to Japan. They see this as a new industry in which they can be a new technology which they can be at the forefront of, and have are giving it the big hug. So again, the fact that it would require global effort, and even then I'm not sure, makes it pretty improbable. There was a paper that was just released in the last few days. It came out of the St. Louis Federal Reserve. A couple of their researchers, I will link to it in the show notes. But the name of the paper was what was it? I don't have it in front of me, but it was basically like something like an overview of crypto assets or something like that. And it was published in the St. Louis Federal Review, the Federal Reserve Review. And anyway, and so a quote from them, from this paper, I don't know necessarily that this is an official, well, I guess it would have to be an official position of the St. Louis Fed. They said, give me a second, I'm going to read a couple of quotes to you. They said the most apparent application is Bitcoin as an asset. It is likely that crypto assets such as Bitcoin will merge as their own asset class. I would argue that it already is, but albeit a very small one, but fine. And thus have the potential to develop into an interesting investment and diversification instrument, which is also the case that I make. Bitcoin itself could over time assume a similar role as gold. Moreover, the potential for trading securities on a public blockchain is large. And then throughout the article, they make the case that crypto assets are well suited to become a new important asset class, and they go so far as to say that in some ways it is more robust than fiat currencies, meaning, U.S. dollar, Swiss franc, whatever. So past experience says that we embrace technology. We don't try to shut it down. But I do, especially when, you can't put this genie back in the bottle. But what I do think is that regulation is a different matter. Okay. Just also, in the last couple of days, the commissioner, or I think that's what, chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, just put out a note in which he says he has instructed SEC staff to be on high alert for initial coin offerings, ICOs, that violate securities laws, perhaps hinting that the agency is preparing to step up its intervention in the nascent ICO fundraising industry. And I say to that, as it should. I would be willing to say that 95% of what is being offered in these ICOs is absolute crap, if not an outright scam. And a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. And of course, as soon as they do, that's going to beg for regulation. And that is the job of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I understand that the underpinnings of crypto assets was this libertarian movement in which, that came out of the financial crisis, in which the original idea was, it is still that, the government shouldn't be involved in any way, and we're going to overtake, and and in the future this will be the only currency, and okay, whatever. Whatever. I think, okay, maybe we'll just say, in the meantime, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But in the meantime, while these two are operating in parallel, that there should be some regulation, or a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. I understand libertarians think that's anathema, but I think it's as they should. I invite it, as long as it doesn't stifle the technology, and I think it's likely, and I think it's healthy. Okay, so with that, I think the likely outcome is regulation and cooperation, but the market doesn't care what I think. It doesn't care what you think either, and nor does it really matter to me as an investor. It's contrary to the kind of conversation, the underlying message of the conversation I had last night, it's not a reason to get in. It's not a reason to stay out. It's not a reason to buy or to sell. It is noise. It is absolute noise. I believe that the framework for this trade, meaning the crypto asset trade, I call it a trade, but it's a long-term one, or we can call it an investment thesis if you want, is Pascal's wager. Simple as that. And you can read about my reasonings in my blog post on my website. It's called Why Getting into Bitcoin may be a better idea than you think, something like that. Why investing in Bitcoin is a better idea than you might think. And you can find that article and read the whole thing in at sanecrypto.com/wager. Okay, but briefly, Pascal's wager was the idea was first put forward by Blaise Pascal, the mathematician and philosopher in the 16th century. Back then, it was cutting edge probability theory, and what he said was that humans wager on whether God exists every day with their lives. And what he said was that a rational person should believe in God, should act according to that belief in God. And the reason is, and this is the key part, if God does exist, okay, that's the bet, that's the wager, God does exist, the returns, the results of that are infinite, meaning, infinity, eternity rather, in heaven, okay? But if you're wrong, you gave up nothing, relatively speaking, few earthly pleasures, for a short period of time, in exchange for eternity in heaven, or if you were wrong and you bet that God doesn't exist, in eternity in hell, right? So so you can sum up Pascal's wager as if you win all, and if you lose nothing, or relatively nothing. And so I believe that the way that you structure this investment is as Pascal's wager. Okay? Because nobody knows. The thing that's so sort of tantalizing and delicious about this investment is that I can make an absolutely rational case for why this thing will go to $1 million, as crazy as that sounds. And I can make an equally rational argument for why it won't make it. I don't know that it'll ever go to zero, but it might as well be zero. Okay, so that's Pascal's wager, and so you have to set the investment up that way, and which I've done, and I teach people to do. And assuming that you don't screw up Pascal's wager by putting more in than what I believe is the maximum 2% of your investable assets, then none of this matters. None of it matters, because none of us can know what will be the thing that makes it to go to $1 million or makes it go to zero. We don't know. And so the answer to should you invest, I believe, is yes, assuming you have investable assets. How much? No more than 2%. Okay. And then you should have a system, as we do, that enforces selling at various predetermined points as the price goes up, not down. That's the opposite of what most people do. They sell on the way down and they buy on the way up. Okay. Our system enforces the profit raking on the way up, assuming it goes up. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay, that's okay too, because that's the way we set it up. One of our principles, which you can find again on my website, sanecrypto.com/principles. And by the way, our system is at sanecrypto.com/system. But principles, one of them is, number 5, I believe, is hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Okay? Everything else is just noise. And noise causes you to do dumb things. They trigger fear and greed. And the key to success is to lose the noise and shut out as much noise as you possibly can. Signal only. And signal is actually infinitesimally small. So, was that helpful? I hope so. If so, share it. Leave your comments below, letting me know that. I'd love to hear your questions, and also any other topics that you'd like me to cover. I do these broadcasts about this time every morning on weekdays. If you would like to be notified when I go live via Facebook Messenger, just go to sanecrypto.com/live, and our friendly bot, will sign you up for those Facebook Messenger notifications. If you would like to learn more about the Sane Crypto of investing in cryptocurrency, then go to sanecrypto.com. Remember, disclaimer, everything I have said is for educational purposes only. Nothing I said should be construed as investment advice. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk, especially this one. Could go to zero tomorrow. No one knows. So do not invest under any circumstances, and do not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. Risk capital only, folks. Thanks for listening. I'm Kim Muse. I'll be back tomorrow with another installment of Sane Crypto Live. And until next time, may the crypto gods continue to smile on us all. Bye, guys.